The NCAA Selection Committee revealed its official early top 16 seeds on Saturday on CBS. Auburn is the number 1 overall seed, Alabama the overall number 2. Joining the Tigers and tied on the 1 line is Duke and Florida, 6 SEC teams in the top 16, including Tennessee, who's the overall number 5. Big 12 with the second most teams, 5 of them, including Houston, who's tops in the conference. We are less than 30 days away from Selection Sunday. I love seeing that. 16 teams there. I love it. Looks good. Welcome in CBS Sports bracketologist Jerry Palm and CBS Sports senior writer Matt Norlander here in studio. Jerry, we got to look at the bracket. We got to look at what the committee is thinking. What are your biggest takeaways from the bracket reveal?
Well, that they confirmed what we already know, and that is they also believe the SEC is a dominant conference with 5 of the top 6 from the SEC. And what that means is going forward, we're likely to see 3 SEC teams on the top line of the final bracket as well. They may not be 5 out of 6. They may disperse a little bit. But I think we have a good chance, not a perfect chance, but a good chance of 3 SEC teams finishing as number 1 seeds. And that would be the 3rd time that had happened from one conference.
Yeah, Jerry Hakeem, I thought the committee did a pretty good job overall. I interviewed Keith Gill, who will be the chair next year. He's the associate chair this season. I interviewed him on CBS Sports HQ, and we got into a little bit of, why SEC teams that far at the top. Talked to me about Kansas, talked to me about St. John's, and then also wins above bubble and BartTorvik.com. These are 2 new metrics, and overall, I was satisfied with what Gill had to share. It wasn't as completely as forthcoming as I'd like, but that's the case every single year. But in general, and it is only 16 teams, and we will have to wait for a month from now to see how it all plays out with these new metrics and see if there's any discernible difference in the process overall. It should be minor. In general, I thought that the committee did a nice job, and it was a nice point of clarification. 1 month out from the real thing, and now we have an idea of where teams at the top stand. Keep in mind, now that Saturday is through, you've got results like Michigan State winning and Kansas losing that have even thrown those rankings, out the window, because there's no way that Kansas is a top 16 team at this point.
Jerry, I wanted to follow up with you here. Were you a bit surprised that Michigan State was left out of the top 16?
Well, yes, but I kind of understand. They didn't have the depth of high-quality wins that some of the other teams had, and they had the home loss to Indiana, which was kind of a separator. So I understand it. I had them projected higher, but if I were going to nitpick, I would nitpick with Kansas being up there among the top 4. And then, of course, they went out and lost again tonight. But it just their level of inconsistency has been troubling enough to me that I would not have put them in the top 4.
Yeah, Kansas has alternated wins and losses in their last 8 games. So you could say they're consistent with the trend there, right?
Predictable.
Jerry made that joke. That's a hat tip to Jerry. He made the joke before we came on the air. That's pretty good. Less than 30 days until Selection Sunday. Arkansas is among Jerry Palm's last 4 in entering the day. Razorbacks lose on the road against Texas A&M. Arkansas 3-8 in quad 1 games this season. Head coach John Calipari had this to say post-game about the missed opportunity.
And for us to bust through, we're going to have to beat somebody. We can say what we want. Like, I wanted to make sure they weren't happy we're going to be okay. No. If we won that game, say it, we're in the tournament. If we won that game, we're in the tournament. So it's not okay to say we'll be all right. Now you're going to have to go get somebody else. I didn't want to put that on them because I got some guys a little bit fragile. So I'm having to hold them accountable but keep picking them up.
So that's what Coach Cal said to his team. It's not okay to say we'll be all right. Jerry, what are you saying about Arkansas?
He's going to need to beat more than one somebody. They're 8-10 against the top 3 quadrants. Only one team has ever gotten an at-large bid 2 games below 500 against that group. Now, with the SEC the way it is this year, we may see a couple of those teams, but I don't know that we're going to see anybody 3 games below 500 get into the field against the top 3 quadrants. So that means they're going to have to split these games. And there's a lot of somebody still on their schedule, plus the conference tournament. So, yeah, they're going to have to beat somebody, but it's going to be more than one. One win alone is not going to get them in.
Does Arkansas give you any NC State vibes from a year ago?
No.
I would say no. I wanted to ask the question.
I mean, well, NC State, that's a one-of-one story.
I know, but I wanted to remind people of that awesome story.
There's no DJ Burns on the Arkansas roster.
Okay, no. I just wanted to check and make sure we ruled it
That's
out.
fair.
All right. Arkansas looking to do the improbable in their next game, take down Auburn on the road. All right, Matt, what bubble result for you stood out to you on this Saturday?
What bubble result?
Yes.
I would say Wake Forest winning on the road against SMU. Wake Forest just took a bad loss at home against Florida State. Steve Forbes has had a program that's averaged more than 20 wins over the past 3 seasons, but has not been able to break through into the NCAA tournament. This is year 5 for him in Winston-Salem. And listen, SMU, this speaks to the ACC being terrible. I mean, SMU entered the day as a 19-5 team that didn't have a tournament resume. You almost never get a team from a power conference with 19 wins, 5 losses, and not even have a sniff at it. But that was the case with SMU. It was shorthanded. Don't care. Wake Forest also didn't have Cameron Hildreth available. Goes on the road, gets a win here. You can see Palm had him in the last 4 entering the day. It only reinforces its status, although there's some trepidation. That was the one to me on a day that had a couple of notable bubble results for a winner. I thought that was a key one for Wake Forest to get it done on the road.
All right, time now to talk winners and losers. Jerry, who helped their tournament resume the most on Saturday?
I would say Texas beating Kentucky. They really needed that. I remember I was talking about, 2 games below 500 against the top 3 quadrants. Texas is there now after that win over Kentucky, and they may also be able to get in if they can stay there. But the schedule's going to be hard. But for Texas, the difference between Texas and Arkansas is that 7 of Texas's 8 wins are quad 1 and 2. And for Arkansas, it's only 4. But Arkansas has a road win at Texas. So, both of those teams have got problems, and they're going to need to win down the stretch of this season to get into the tournament. But that was a big one for Texas today.
I'd say Auburn. I have a column up at CBSSports.com about this. I thought that the win against Alabama, it's twofold here. One, Auburn predictably enters the day, and they're the number 1 overall seed. No one was surprised by that in the bracket reveal. But you even heard Bubba Cunningham say that, this is his 5th year on the committee, and there has never been at this point in the season a team in that number 1 overall spot that had this much distance between them, and Alabama was the number 2 overall team on the seed list there. And then for those 2 teams to meet, Auburn to be on the road, to win in some convincing fashion, and now be at 14 quad 1 wins. The record is 17 by Kansas 2 seasons ago. Now, again, we haven't had the quadrant system for decades at this point, so it's not like we can go back and A to A look at, some of the great resumes of the 90s and 2000s. But still, what Auburn's doing is on pace to be historic, and I thought that getting the win on the road against a blood rival, first ever 1-2 featuring 2 SEC teams, so much to it. Janai Broom again puts up a big performance. Auburn is perhaps an obvious choice, but as I write at CBSSports.com, this team is now, as a result of this win, it really is entering into a phase where it could be one of the all-time great teams if it continues to do over the next 6 weeks what it's done to this point. And it almost feels like, Hakeem, it feels like fait accompli that Auburn's going to be the number 1 overall seed. I will be stunned. Right. Truly, I would truly be stunned if we get to Selection Sunday and anyone but the Tigers are the first team revealed on the selection show.
You know what? It should tell you the fact that their worst net loss is to Florida, and they're on the 1 line. That just tells you how stinking good they are. Yeah. Jerry, I know you want to weigh in. I don't know. I guess they would have to lose their last 6 games and get knocked out in the SEC tournament. I don't see a situation where they're not the number 1 overall seed.
Yeah, they would really have to go in the tank. Yeah, I don't know quite that bad, but yeah, they'd have to go in the tank to even open up the possibility. They now have 6 more quad 1 wins than anyone else. That's just overwhelming distance between those 2.
It's ridiculous. It really is. I know they have a gauntlet rest of way, but they've done everything that they needed to this point to get the number 1 overall seed. All right, as for who disappointed you the most, Jerry, on this day, who's your biggest loser following Saturday's action?
Well, it's a game we've already talked about a little bit, SMU. This is a team that needed wins over anybody with a pulse. And they had a team that they were competing with for a spot in the bracket on their home floor and just couldn't get it done. And so for SMU, the path to the NCAA tournament is pretty slim at this point because they're going to have to beat somebody that they haven't shown the ability to beat. And so I'm just not very optimistic for them. I wasn't to begin with, but when you had this opportunity today and you couldn't do it, I think for them that's probably going to make it very difficult for them.
I will go with the UConn Huskies. Still in the field, but the loss at Seton Hall, registering as a quad 3 loss. I mean, Seton Hall is one of the worst, if not the worst, high major teams this season in college basketball. Had only 1 win in Big East play prior to Saturday. And for UConn, which is, playing with still a ton of pride and a lot of potential and has been flirting with fire with a couple of underachieving Big East teams, the end of the game, I get it. It was a freakish end of the game. Some of UConn's inbounding, though, in regulation and overtime left a ton to be desired. They just, I don't know. They got the heebie-jeebies on a couple of these possessions there. So UConn, to me, arguably the biggest loser because that is a damaging resume hit. And I want to see how the Huskies resolve and try and rebound from this over the next 3 weeks, or is this just going to be what they are? Are they going to be plagued by the fact that they don't have a really strong point guard, that they aren't overall they're not that deep? We'll see. It's Dan Hurley. That coaching staff is good. There's a ton of pride in the program, Hakeem, but that was a shocking loss. I know UConn's taken, so I was there in Maui. I saw them lose to Colorado. I saw them get shocked by Memphis in the first game. But the idea that this team would get picked off, even on the road against Hurley's alma mater, was pretty eye-opening to me.
Yeah, that's not a bad loss. That's a loss that can't happen. That's what that is.
Yeah.
You can't do that, and it's embarrassing. It is. Jerry Palm, Matt Norlander, they're always winners here on CBS Sports HQ. Men, thank you. As we get closer and closer to Selection Sunday, the excitement, it's here. I don't know if you can feel it, but it's awesome. Coming up on Sunday, a rivalry renewed, 1 Eastern on CBS. Number 20, Michigan, clashing with Ohio State. Wolverines have won 5 in a row and are atop the Big Ten. A victory in Columbus would give Michigan a 12-win improvement from last season when they finished 8-24. Shouts to Dusty May. You can see the game 1 Eastern on CBS and streaming live on Paramount+.